Welcome to SharkCapTable.pro. Keep a bigger bite of equity. Now today we're going to look at section 4. So I'm going to come up to our navigation bar and I'm going to select section 4. You can see that we have a little help. It says securities available for raises. So let's click on that and go down. So here we are. This is a nice interesting table. The reason I put this table together is because it gets very complex to determine how securities work, when they vote, and what happens with liquidation preferences. And I'm going to try to give you a little wisdom as to why people do things the way they do them, because I've put together a lot of deals. So here we go. Along the top, of course, we've got the security. Let's talk about common. It is common because it's the most common type of security used. It votes, and generally you get one share and one vote. Sometimes people create super voting securities. I hate that because it basically tells me that certain people think they are worth more than others. And I don't like that. I want to give everybody a vote. I'm very democratic. So we buy them at the beginning of the year. We use pre-money value to price the security. Remember, pre-money value is the value at the moment, that very moment before you raise money, that you and the investors think your company is worth. In our case, we are not showing any common dividends. It gets very complex and it makes little difference. Do you pay any interest on common? The answer is no, no interest. Is there anything to do with a pre-money value cap? Meaning, is there a limit on valuation? That only occurs with convertible notes, and we'll get there. Is there a discount? No. Is there a conversion? No. If you sell it, if you sell the security, it will be done at the end of the year, EOI. Okay, so we've just covered common. Now let's go to security common with warrants. Yes, they will vote when they convert into common. When are they bought or granted? At the beginning of the year. They are priced at the pre-M value. That's kind of nebulous because you really don't price warrants, but people do look at that. Dividend, none. Interest, none. PMV cap on valuation, nope. No discount. The conversion is warrants into common, and they are at the end of the year. Okay, preferred. Voting, yes, this is voting preferred. One share equals one vote. Again, we acquire at the beginning of the year. It's priced at pre-money valuation. Does it pay a dividend? It may if you decide to elect to pay a dividend, but it only accrues into common at the end of the year. We're not paying cash dividends, again, for simplicity's sake. This tool is for you, so I want you to be able to structure a deal that everybody else can understand. Hence, we have cut the complexity to the absolute minimum. People are going to complain that we didn't have this or I want that. If enough of you require something, I'll put it into the model. But if only one person speaks up and says, yeah, I'd like to have this, forget about it. I ain't going to do it. Interest, you don't pay interest on preferred. Is there a cap? There is not a pre-money valuation cap. Any discount? Nope. Conversion? Nope. End of year sale? Yes. Let's go to preferred liquidation preferences. Now, why did we have preferred stock in the first place? So we could have liquidation preferences. What the heck is a liquidation preference? Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say you and me form a company and we each have 50%. And the guy across the street comes in for $1 million for half of the deal. So you and I each have 25%, and he's got 50%. And you, being a great salesperson, you sell the company a couple years later for $2 million. Man, you're doing great. So we sit down at the table and we divide up the equity. How much did the guy with $1 million get? Hey, he only got $1 million. Is that a good rate of return for him? No way. What did we do? Well, we split $1 million down the middle. That's pretty good, $500,000 each. Now, the guy across the street's a little smarter than that, so he comes to us and says, I'll give you $1 million if and only if I get preferential liquidation rights or liquidation preferences. What does that mean? It means the first money in, he gets paid back. So the $2 million at the closing table first goes $1 million to him. Now, it actually could be more than that. He could have a multiple of liquidation preferences, 1.5 times, 1.25 times. But for my verbal mathematics, just think of it as 1. Number 1, he gets his money back first. What's left is $1 million, and that gets divided by the equity ownership. He gets 50% of that, and each of us share 25%. Now, we get cut back, but he's happy as a clam, and without his money, we would have never got the $2 million sale. So that's, folks, is why you have liquidation preferences. And just so you know, there could be a whole string of liquidation preferences, and we do have them, and you'll hear the term waterfall, and I'll show you something about a waterfall. So I'm going to come down and click on waterfalls, and here's a waterfall. Okay, so you can read all about waterfalls in this section, which is entitled Waterfalls. Imagine that. So I'll just show you a little picture so you know what's going on. All right, so I'm going to grab my handy-dandy red pointer. Here are the cash proceeds. The first comes into this preferred, and he gets his money back. What happens next, if we had a second preferred, is that money then flows into the trough like a waterfall, and he gets his money back. It says, see, once a bucket is full, the remainder flows into the next bucket. On and on and on. And if you're lucky, there's something left to go into this bucket. And this bucket is all shared by founders' options, which convert, friends which have common, the convertibles which have converted sometime earlier, the preferred A, B, C, D, and E. And that, my friends, is a waterfall. So we're going to go back to SharkCapTable.pro and continue talking about our securities. Okay, so we've just talked about liquidation preferences. Yep, you get a vote, beginning of the year, PM value. Yep, liquidation preferences on original cost. Now you're a pro. Interest, none. No cap, no discount, no conversion. When it's sold, it's at the end of the year. Now let's come to the next important one. Convertible notes. Remember, they're not voting because they're notes. And if they get converted, which they almost always do, in the next round, they buy them or you sell them to those folks at the beginning of the year, and the next round that comes in, whether it is a preferred or a common round, sets the price, but the price these folks pay is at a discount. You don't pay a dividend to convertible notes. Yes, you do pay interest, and yes, the interest accrues into more common, just like the preferred has its dividend accruing into more common. So, next thing is PMVM cap. Yes, it prevents a runaway valuation. Discount, well, yes, 10 to 30% is usually the norm. That's that discount to the next round. Converts, well, when it converts into common, and the sale is at end of year. Now the last thing we have is that option pool, and we've joined management options with option pool. Is it a voting issue? No, not until you convert into common stock. Buy, it's actually granted or sold at the beginning of the year at a nominal cost, meaning a buck or $2 and other due consideration. There's no dividend paid on options because it's not yet converted. There's no interest. There's no PMVM cap. There is no discount. The conversion is at exit and options into common. And the sale, and you sell at the end of the year. We've already discussed how the value of the options, and we'll get into it when we get into the section 6, how the value of the options are amortized over the vesting period. And we have that provision in our financial statement. And I'll just show you that by zooming up to the low and showing you where we have that. Right here. If you issue options, that's where you're going to expense them. So we're going to go back to section 3. Actually, excuse me, section 4. And that pretty much does it. I would suggest that from time to time you review, because you're going to forget about what happens and when it happens unless you're really familiar with these types of securities. Thanks very much, and good luck.